I'm Mark Baer. You're watching the YourTown television show. My guest, Cindy Wu.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
Well,
always a pleasure to be here.
This is, we've had continuing conversations, so here we are, 2024.
Mm-hmm. It's the third year.
Third year, and I've watched Sunkiss'd Mozart. I've watched your, I've had a ringside seat, and I've been learning about music and what's inside of music and all kinds of music, as everybody in your audiences has had the fortune to do. And we all walk out after your shows and we say, can you believe we live here? So I want to kind of go right to the Emerging Composers Intensive.
Yes.
This is the third year for this, Hidden Valley, and it's composers from all over the world, young composers, and I'll let you explain what it is a bit.
Yes, so it's a program where we actually invite these composers that really come from all over the world. We have had composers coming from Peru, Shanghai, Singapore, Germany. This year we just collected Germany. But a lot of them actually are very excited about a career in the U.S. But actually what we do doesn't have a lot to do with location. But what we're doing is that we champion the new music movement among the younger generations. And what we also want to do is to help them build the skill set that makes them ready for a professional career, which really includes, very important, is collaboration between performers and their music throughout the process, as well as becoming friends and building lifelong friendships and collaboration.
And I know for the kids, who many are in their second year of this, many returns, they're having just an amazing experience.
Yes, I mean, for starters, I think especially the first years, I think many of them are shocked at how good their music sounds in the hands of the performers at our level.
Of professionals, yeah.
Yes, because a lot of times I think in the schools, wherever they are, they're working with instrumentalists that are students, at the school, also studying, doesn't have the professional knowledge. They're also learning to interpret. They're just learning their just standard repertoire and getting to the new music. They have a hard time knowing how to help the composers, for this to be a more successful performance. And they also lack the imagination about turning what's on the page into an experience. Initially, when they hear our first rehearsal, they're so just like floored by how good their music sounds. And of course, throughout the week, it gets really, really intense, because when we start teaching them and sharing with them like how their pieces could work better in an ensemble between the interaction of performers as well as individually on the instruments, and then they realize how much that changes and makes their performances even better. And also a lot of times we're also, the reason I want to put performers and composers together is because I think a lot of times if we just play a piece of music that's on paper, we try to get the message, from the paper, and then we do our best. But if you put a person in front of you that you end up, you feel them, their struggles, and then you want to help them, you believe in them, it makes you want to work that much harder.
So what the intensive does is it puts world-class artists, world-class musicians together with up-and-coming composers, and they're hearing their work really performed for the first time. And let's talk about NPR and Fred Childs a little bit, because
yes.
I want people to know that this is on a national scope.
Yes, so it's actually, when I initially built the program, our core faculty members include renowned composer Wang Ji and Nick DiBardino. He's also a renowned composer. He's actually becoming the provost of the Curtis Institute of Music. I mean, his career has grown throughout ECI as well. So he was director of composition, and then he was dean, and now he's provost. And then what also comes outside of the composition faculty member and performing faculty members, we have a very special teacher, which is Fred Child, who is the host of the most important, most listened to classical music show in this entire country called Performance Today. So every city that has an NPR station, it almost plays 2 hours a day. Every day. So like I listen to it, like just actually on the way here, I was listening to the show on KAZU HD2. And so I think their listeners are in the millions. So to get an opportunity to be broadcasted on his show is something that could be a great stepping stone for a lot of these composers. So besides that, we're going to teach them, help them. We also want to give them a major opportunity. I mean, not every composer will get to. I mean, we usually select about 2, and then it's voted by the audience, including you. And so, and besides that, also very important is that we're going to make them a really great recording performed by us, recording and video for them to take home as part of their portfolio, for them to put on their website, send it to the next opportunity applications. And because building a resume also matters a lot to their, building repertoire, building resume. So we're hoping to hit a little bit of everything to help them. Of course, there's always room to learn, but we also are looking for the people that are ready, and then we send them to our artistic partners that potentially can give them work, commission them work, or play their pieces. So we're hoping to hit all of it. And then so that was sort of like my idea. Like I think thinking about just teaching them is not enough. I think, it's like, how can you educate people like for life? You should give them some work and then see if they work well under pressure, right? So we try to make it as realistic as possible and then make the price in the end as good as possible and as helpful as possible. So, this has just freshly ended a few days ago. Some of them very smart, like they wrote these thank you letters to, because I was the program founder director. So a lot of them, even if I didn't play their pieces, they thanked me. And then so I opened the card. It's like, whoa, it's like just very tiny words and then just fill the entire card. And then so you hear about all the different aspects that they love about ECI, that they love learning about public speaking. They love learning about getting their bio to tell better stories about them. They love hearing their piece come alive in such a great way.
I think they love Cindy's Charm School too, So Cindy's Charm School is how they look at the audience, how they explain themselves, how they explain their work, how they have public speaking.
Actually, it's more about after the concert, how they engage the audience members after concert, outside of their actual performance, and how. I actually always try to convince them why you need to do that. And then once I convince them and I teach them how to do that well, and you can see the rest of the week, so usually at every concert I play, I usually stay till there's not one more person that wants to talk to me, after the concert, and then I would go home. But when after Cindy's Charm School, all these composers are spreading out throughout the hall, I talked to a few people. I'm like, we're good. I'm gonna go home.
Yeah, you could go home because I ended up talking.
That's right.
Now I'm Instagramming these kids. Yes. I'm talking because we've made friends over the years.
That's right. Exactly.
And you taught them how to do that.
Yes, exactly.
And the audience there these are pretty switched on music aficionados that have taken part of this, that know about this thing. As a lay listener, not a sophisticated listener, just hearing the new is thrilling. You know, this music's on such a level. So let's tell. So there are 2 nights of performances, and you guys selected a piece that each of them reacted to. So let's talk about how you set that up.
So over the years, because this is usually how a lot of things commissioning works. When you commission somebody, you have an idea of what else is on the program. So you do let them know, like, what is the experience like surrounding your music, and they can decide, you know, and sometimes there are inspirations. It's like, your piece is going to go with Dvorak's piano quintet, right? I want you to have something that segues into that or something. So there's specific requests. So I sort of send them a little bit of that. You know, I assign them the instrumentations after studying everything they have written and what do they lack. So I sort of get a sense of that, oh, this person can use more standard repertoire. So I give them either a violin piano duo, string quartet, string trio, piano trio, you know, very standard ensembles. Or if they have only written for very standard things, I might give them something a little bit off, like, you know, like a clarinet, cello, piano, you know, something that does exist, but it's also a little rare and kind of interesting for them to learn how to do that. And then the pieces that they have been going with, sort of like how I usually make programs. I have certain pieces I'm like, oh, you know, I've been listening to this, it's very cool. Or it's there is an element about this piece I would like them to learn from. So like, for example, this year I used Bernstein because of the Maestro movie, right?
Yes.
Everybody is learning about Bernstein. And then what is about the movie is that, so I mean, I take a lot of joy in my own clever programming. So like, for example, I call the Bernstein program More Than the Two of Us. We never got to really explain what that means. So first, you know, the real way it inspires the composers is that when you have more than one player, the possibility should multiply, not just add, right? So I'm like, if you're writing not for a solo instrument, you're writing for 2 people, you're adding possibilities of interaction, imitation, doubling, or adding texture to each other. It's sort of like me encouraging them to think about music not as just like a linear, like, oh, you have 2, so it's 2 things happening. No, you have 2, the possibility multiplies. That's one. The other one is that because the Bernstein movie Maestro, it's about all his affairs outside of his marriage. So I was sort of playing with it. I was like, more than the 2 of us.
Yes.
So it's more than just the 2 musicians that are playing. It's that there are other people also involved.
When you performed the piece, which was just, which was a really rare piece, I really hadn't heard it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and he's 23 years old, and he's the age
of many of the composers.
He's the age of many of these composers.
Yeah.
The other thing I've experienced also coming to your concerts is I've seen you put a couple of these pieces now into repertoire.
Yes.
Kian recently
commission.
I heard the piece by Rain that you put is April's the Cruelest Month, is that the title of it?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the thrill of that.
Well, you know, that I do think it's also on NPR there is a slogan that they always say, every piece of music was once new, right? So the Beethoven Symphony that's on every concert program was once new and shocked people. So part of what's happening today, it needs to become the new tradition. I mean, if they're good, then they become the new history. And so I sort of enjoy knowing that I'm championing the making the new history, you know, with these young composers' work. So if I find, like, for example, with Rain's piece, April is the Cruise Month, that is I programmed it into a program called Calm Down Rain. If you talk to a violinist and you say rain, they'll know it's the Brahms First Sonata, because the last movement literally is about rain. So it's like it was also, he has recycled an old song of his called the Reagan Lied, which is the rain song. So he recycled the theme and put it into the sonata. So of course, when someone sees a violin recital and has rain in the title, people probably already expect me to play that. But what else can go on the program that can give people like a fresh perspective? That is what an artistic director does when I make programs, is what goes with what? What is the emotional experience or the intellectual or the learning experience you want people to have listening to this program? So I remember I specifically really wanted to play Rain's piece, not just because her name is Rain, but it sort of worked out, but because she was describing April. You know, it's a season of spring, and then Brahms's piece was a song that, of course, has words to it. And then the final piece on the program was a fantasy by Schubert, and then in the middle of the piece, this is a really grand piece, in the middle of the piece, there is a thing in variations that also is taken from one of his earlier songs. So it's just like, you know, I find a lot of these relationships, it doesn't matter it's music of today, or the future, or 200 years ago, 400 years ago, they all relate to each other because people are the same. You know, we're going to go through life and we're going to have stories of love, loss. It's going to rain.
So this was, I just want to show one of your beautiful programs that Cindy Wu designs.
Yes.
And the last thing was potpourri in that in the house, Sunset Magazine Idea House, designed by my friend Tom Hood, and it was staged for a concert. So the house was staged by a piece of art.
Yes.
And you premiered Cradle Song.
Yes. Yes, and that's actually, to me, that also means a lot because Kian's definitely one of those composers that was completely ready.
Yeah, give his name so that people will.
So Kian Ravai, he participated in ECI twice. So our very first year and second year, but I actually met him, and I actually personally invited him to apply for the program because I met him at a Curtis summer program from a couple years before that. I've always known that his music was good, but I think through the program I got to know him. He definitely has grown a lot, but he also was someone who was extremely assertive in getting all the other professional things ready. So the first person I thought about commissioning for my Sunkiss'd Mozart Summerfest was going to be him.
And in the audience, it was
Yes.
thrilling.
It was a very important moment, I think, for a lot of people to have seen that.
Yeah. How can people help?
I mean, of course, I love bringing music to Monterey, and you know, especially this is where I live now, and I often, you know, the way I've been doing everything is that I use a lot of mystery to encourage people to be open-minded. You know, right? If I don't tell them, they come and they discover. I mean, the things that we're all people that love to go to a restaurant and try new things. And then we love opening presents. But there are so many people that go to concerts after they look at the list. I like this piece. I don't like this piece. I don't want to, oh, this is music after 1950s. I don't want to listen to that. You know, there are people that reject music without, I would say, I can say with confidence, I'm pretty sure the rejection comes from an assumption, maybe from an experience that is not a reflection of all. What everybody can do is something I keep encouraging, is being open-minded. And I always tell the stories. Like every program that I present here, I try to tell people the stories of how it's made, what it's about, how does it relate to you, how can you feel about it. And I think once people can connect to that concept, they can start imagining, even if it's an unsuccessful piece. I've presented a piece I told the audience was not a piece that this composer was proud himself. And this is a reflection of someone who is a giant, struggle with something his whole life. Even when something that was brilliant that came out of him, he actually could not finish it at the same level as something that came out of him. So I think that's what people can do, is open their mind. Don't think that anything that you have heard is the only thing that it can be when you go to a concert of mine. How about that? Okay. Maybe not all concerts. I don't know.
I'm Mark Baer, YourTown Television, the great Cindy Wu.
Thank you, Mark.